Elon Musk silences everyone talking to a billionaire at his ex's wedding party. The big hall thrummed with energy, a sparkling mix of champagne bubbles popping, heels clicking, and hushed whispers swirling like a dark fog. At the center, Elon Musk stood tall and calm, his piercing eyes scanning the crowd, as guests in designer dresses and sharp tuxedos swirled around him. But all eyes weren't just on him. They were locked on a figure beside him. Arthur, a billionaire, with a smile too bright, too practiced, like a shining mask stretched tight over something dangerous. Nobody really knew where Arthur came from. Rumors flew hotter than the open bar. He made his fortune in cryptocurrency, or maybe shady tech deals. Or was he really just a gambler who hit the jackpot one lucky night? Tonight, at Elon's ex-wife's lavish wedding reception, they swapped words that stirred the air with electric unease. Electric, but cold. The kind that prickles your skin in a way that feels like trouble. You think you're changing the world, but what if your rockets and AI are just shiny toys for the rich? What if your legacy is built on broken promises? Guests stiffened nearby, catching every ounce of tension like a rifle shot in the night. Elon's jaw clenched visibly, his hands curling into fists behind his back. His voice was ice cold when he finally answered. Ambition isn't easy, Arthur. You either lead the future or fade out quietly. Then, out of nowhere, the party seemed to shatter. Elon's posture shifted, rigid, when Arthur's knowing eyes locked onto him. Full of secrets and dark memories neither wanted to touch in front of everyone. There was a link between them, a shadow buried deep and messy, something no open smile or clinking glass could cover. Outside, under the glittering lights wrapped around ancient oaks, their debate leaked into sharp words, spit out like weapons. Elon's chest heaved. Arthur's grin faded, replaced by a flicker of pain that no one inside saw. A sudden crash, the ring of a dropped bottle and gasps split the night. A waiter slipped. Glass shattered. Panic rose like smoke. And in the chaos, unspoken fears clawed their way to the surface. Whispers circulated. Did you hear? Arthur's name is tied to that scandal. Something from Elon's early days. Faces paled, eyes darted, past sins clawed free to haunt the present. Threatening to tear down the perfect party. Arthur's charm cracked, revealing scars beneath. Elon's stoic mask faltered, his breath catching like a heart just missed a beat. The moral dilemma circling them wasn't just a story for tabloids. It was a warning, a plea to stop, to reconcile, to admit that sometimes success hides darkness no one wants to face. But time was slipping. The music stuttered. The crowd held its breath. Between laughter and tears, elbow nudges, and shaken heads, the real reason for the wedding stuck into view. Not just a celebration, but a call to heal fractures before they become wounds too deep to mend. So here they stand, two giants caught in a game they never asked for, both teetering on the edge. Elon's legacy, Arthur's secrets. What will break first? The silence? The truth? Or the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, they can still save what's left? The night waits, quiet, but screaming. The question hangs heavy. How far will they go to protect what they've built? And what price will they pay when all eyes are watching? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Elon stood rooted to the spot, his gaze locked on Arthur. The air hummed with a tight tension, as if the whole world had paused just for them. Guests nearby held their breath, sensing a storm brewing. The faint echoes of laughter faded, swallowed by the weight of unspoken truths. Then, without warning, the lights flickered. 1, 2, 3 times. Like an old movie reel, sputtering to life. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Elon's heart raced. Was it just a power glitch or something more? His instincts screamed. It was too coincidental. Just when things were getting messy, Arthur's smug grin vanished, replaced by a flicker of something darker. For a second, he seemed vulnerable, stripped of his bravado. Then, the lights went out completely. A blanket of darkness swallowed the room. People murmured, confusion rising like a wave. Heartbeats quickened, muscles tensed. Suddenly, a blinding flash illuminated the hall. Someone had opened the emergency exits. The spotlight caught Arthur's face, casting shadows that twisted like demons. His expression shifted, as if the weight of the world had crashed down on him. Panic dripped from the crowd like rain. Not just a wedding party anymore. Chaos had taken hold. And then, the scream sliced through the chaotic noise, sharp, visceral. The group spun toward the sound. In the far corner, a figure lay sprawled on the floor. A champagne glass shattered nearby, starkling shards glistening like stars in a violent sky. It was Sarah, Elon's ex-wife, her wedding dress now a ghostly shade, staining the gleaming floor beneath her. Silence fell. The roar of disbelief engulfed the room. Guests edged closer, fear carving lines on their faces. Elon's breath hitched, panic clawing at his throat. This was real. Arthur stepped back, his facade shattered, horror washing over him. I didn't mean for... His voice broke, the bravado gone, crumbling, like a house of cards in the wind. Elon moved instinctively. He knelt beside Sarah. Warm blood seeped into his fingers, slick and wrong. Sarah, can you hear me? His voice trembled, anxiety prickling his skin. Stay with me. But her eyes stared blankly, slowly unfocused, as if she were slipping away on tide. Then the atmosphere shifted again. An ominous presence loomed closer. ... From the shadows, a figure emerged. Tall, slender, it slipped through the crowd with grace. And then they spoke. It's time, Elon. A voice filled with authority, cool and collected, familiar yet frightening. Elon froze. It was Camilla, Arthur's sister, both elegant and terrifying. What was she doing here? Her eyes sparkled with something sinister, as if she reveled in the unfolding drama. You should have known the truth must come to light. It can't be hidden. Suddenly, everything unraveled. A past long buried, clawed to the surface like a monster freed from its cage. Whispers erupted from the guests, weaving through the air like poison. Did you know? It can't be. It's impossible. Faces twisted in horror, eyes darting from Elon to Arthur, confusion morphing into betrayal. Elon's heart raced, adrenaline flooding his veins. What was happening? What truth did Camila speak of? And with Sarah lying there, the stakes had risen to an unfathomable height. Secrets, regrets, twisted ties that linked them all, threaded through the chaos. Camila, what are you talking about? His voice barely rose above a whisper. Everything you thought you knew about your legacy. It's time you learned the real story. It ties us all together, more than you can possibly imagine. With those words, the dam holding back secrets began to break, threatening to drown them all in the rising flood of revelations. The questions loomed heavier than ever. What was the truth? Why had it taken this tragic night to surface? The night pulsed with fear and confusion. The questions spiraled. Could they survive the storm that was finally breaking? Would they want to? The whispers grew louder, uncertainty reaching a boiling point. And as shadows lingered, one thing became painfully clear. This was just the beginning. Elon stood frozen, breath caught in his throat, his heart thumping loud enough for everyone to hear. Arthur's mocking smile faded as uncertainty cast shadows over his face. The crowd had shrunk around them, drawn in by the magnetism of their clash. But the buzz of tension wasn't the only thing in the air. Something else lingered, a promise of chaos lurking just out of sight. Then it happened, a loud crash. Not just any sound, but the unmistakable crack of glass. Another bottle, vibrating through the hall like a warning bell. All heads spun toward the source, and in that moment of collective distraction, a figure stumbled into view. Drenched in shadows, a man slipped through the crowd, his face barely visible, but the cold glint in his eyes promised trouble. Get away from him! You don't know who you're messing with! The words came sharp and fierce, slicing through the murmurs. Everyone turned, surprised, startled by the sudden escalation, as a small yet defiant woman marched toward Elon and Arthur. It was Claire, Elon's ex-wife, her face twisted with emotion, fury, fear, desperation. What are you doing here? Elon shot back, his voice low, almost a hiss. But Claire didn't flinch. Don't act like you're surprised. You think all your money and fame could shield you from the truth? The guests whispered, eyes darting from one figure to the other, tension thickening like smoke. Then came the bombshell. Arthur's not who you think he is. Claire's voice shattered the gasps. He's been lying to you, all of you. Heat rose in Elon's chest as anger flared. Lying? What are you talking about? His voice shook, challenging her. Arthur's expression twisted. It was a mix of fear and a realization that the facade was cracking. I dug deep, Elon. His empire is built on lies, corruption. Those apps and coins you think were genius? They're just a facade for money laundering. Shock rippled through the crowd, gasping reactions like broken glass. Every eye was on Arthur, waiting for his reaction. His laugh turned harsh, jagged. You think you know me? You're just angry because I remind you of what you lost. Maybe, Claire shot back. Or maybe I'm just tired of watching you destroy everything good. Those secrets will come out. They always do. A silence fell, pressing down like a weight nobody could lift. Elon stared at her, a whirlwind of disbelief, shame. What had they been protecting all these years? The world around him blurred, the taste of champagne gone bitter. Don't stand there pretending you're the saint. Arthur's voice trembled with a hint of panic. You could have been part of it too, but you walked away. Run! Someone shouted suddenly from the back, pointing wildly. And just like that, the night exploded. A loud crash, a smoke bomb sent spiraling through the room. A whirlwind of panic ignited, twisting the air into chaos. Guests pushed and shoved, screams cutting through the beats of music. Elon choked on the thickening smoke. Everything blurred together, flashes of fear, the trail, memories clawing to the surface. The smoke lifted, revealing a darkened corner where the shadows twisted. Something sinister, lurking just out of sight. Then, without warning, a figure lunged toward Elon, brandishing a sharp reflection in the dim light. The world narrowed into a single moment, heart racing, skin crawling, and a question blared in his mind. Who could he really trust? Was Arthur the monster, or just a scapegoat in this twisted fairy tale? All bets were off now, the tangled web of truth and lies collapsing in on itself. As chaos spilled over, it became clear the wedding wasn't just a celebration. It was the start of a reckoning. And in this wild tide, nothing would ever be the same again. The chaos pulsed like a heartbeat, frantic and wild. The room was thick with smoke and confusion, panic wrapping around every guest. Elon felt the world constricting, every breath a hard-won battle. An icy grip of fear settled in his stomach, tightening further when he heard the sound of breaking glass again. "Stop!" Claire shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. Someone jostled her, but she held her ground. Eyes stark with urgency. Everyone, just stop! But nothing stopped. People were screaming, pushing past each other, desperate to escape the falling shadows closing in. The clarity of the moment dissolved as the smoky haze thickened. And then it happened. From the far edge of the room, a figure emerged, tall, cloaked in darkness. But as the smoke cleared, just enough, Elon's heart dropped, recognition flooding his mind. It was Camila, moving with an unsettling calmness despite the chaos. "Elon, you have to listen!" she called, her voice slicing through the overscaled panic. All eyes turned to her, the crowd momentarily hushed by her authority. Something about her held them captive. "It's not just Arthur. There's something bigger, something much more dangerous." Elon felt an anchor drop in his chest. "What are you talking about?" He croaked, the words barely escaping. Camila took a step forward, and in that moment, everything shattered. Sarah knew. She knew the whole time. A collective gasp filled the air. Confusion twisted into shock. The revelation dinged like a bell in the distance, a tolling sound signaling doom. Sarah lying on the ground, Still, every breath she could take fading away. Arthur's face soured. "You don't know what you're saying," he shouted, panic rising. But Elon's mind raced, piecing everything together in that instant. Was Sarah involved? In what? Elon pressed, desperation curling around his heart. "Evil can be hidden behind riches," Camila said, her voice trembling but steady. This wedding, it wasn't just a celebration, it was a setup. She paused, eyes darting, surveying the crowd. They wanted to expose you, to ruin you both. Elon's grip on reality slipped. An ache surged in his chest. Who wanted to ruin us? But before she could answer, the air, electric with ominous tension, shifted again. From the shadows, another figure stepped forward, one that sent shock waves through the crowd. It was Sarah, standing tall, not on the floor, but across the room, petrified yet alive. Her bloodied wedding dress glimmered under faint lights, contrasting against her face, pale yet fierce. The room gasped, the chaos freezing into a surreal tableau. "Sarah?" Elon whispered, bewilderment replacing fear. "How?" She raised her hand, a finger pressing against her lips. "Don't say anything. Yet." A wicked smile curled her lips. "It's time I revealed everything!" The ground shifted beneath Elon, memories flashing through his mind. Sarah had pretended. She'd feigned a wedding turned nightmare. The pieces fell into place. She was the maestro of this grotesque symphony, orchestrating every betrayal. "You orchestrated this?" Elon's voice trembled, a mixture of hurt and disbelief battling inside him. "This was always my plan," Sarah said, eyes gleaming darkly. "Watching you both descend into chaos, it's all part of the game." A host of whispers erupted. Confusion turned into outrage, eyes wide with disbelief. Reality was shifting again, colors blurring. Camila stepped forward as if trying to reclaim control. "What game? Why?" "Elon, the truth is, I'm not the woman you think I am. I'm who I choose to be." "This isn't just about you. It's about a reckoning for all of us," Sarah declared, her voice rising above the din. In that moment, a deafening silence fell. All eyes locked on her, tongues tied in shock. What did she mean? What had she planned? A taunting smile spread across Sarah's lips, gleaming like shattered glass. In that moment of chilling clarity, everything had shifted. Lines were drawn. The past resurfaced like a ghost, demanding attention. The night was no longer filled with wonder, but with the unraveling of dark secrets. And Elon was lost in this tempest. Who could he trust now? What had he built? Tomorrow would dawn differently. But tonight, the storm had only just begun. The night hung thick with unresolved tension. The hum of the crowd quieted as whispers snaked through the air, darting like shadows. Elon's heart drummed in his chest, echoing in his ears, while Arthur watched him, that knowing grin slowly slipping away, replaced by something darker, deeper. Then it happened. A figure burst into the hall, breathless and wild-eyed. A woman, hair streaked with panic and mascara running down her face. "Elon, you need to come, now!" Her voice sliced through the noise, straight to the core of everything. Guests turned, faces shifting from curious to alarmed. Elon's pulse quickened. "What is it?" Before she could answer, chaos erupted. The sound of shattering glass rang out again as servers scrambled, dropping trays, spilling drinks. Someone shouted, "Get back!" Arthur's eyes narrowed, narrowing further to slits, like he was seeing something no one else could. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded. But the crowd's whispers drowned him out, turning the room into a boiling cauldron of uncertainty. "Just come with me," the woman pleaded, gripping Elon's arm, her fingers hot against his skin. He didn't hesitate. He tore through the crowd, heart racing, sensing Arthur's frustrated gaze burning into his back. Each step felt heavy, like the world was shifting under him, like he was breaking apart inside. The wedding party blurred around him, toasts, laughter, oblivious to the storm brewing. Outside, the air hit him like a slap. "What's wrong?" he asked, again, urgency thrumming in his voice. "It's Jenna," she gasped, breathless and frantic. "Your daughter, she's been in an accident." Time froze. The world twisted sideways. Elon staggered. "What?" Just one word, but it felt heavy, crushing. Dread crashed like a wave against him. Car overturned. "She's in the hospital." His stomach dropped. He could barely see, the ground beneath him shifting, his mind racing in dark circles. Panic clawed at his throat, choking off breath. Memories flashed. A child's laughter, bedtime stories, school projects. A day not too long ago, image perfect. Now, it all felt tainted. As he stumbled toward the exit, he caught a glimpse of Arthur behind him. Something flickered across Arthur's face, an emotion Elon couldn't pin down. Was it fear? Guilt? The billionaire's mask cracked just for a moment, revealing the man beneath. That connection, that darkness they shared, came rushing back, larger than the storm outside. "Wait!" Arthur called, but Elon couldn't hear him over the pulsing in his ears. In that frantic moment, something deep twisted inside him. Anger, regret, hope. He surged forward, but not before shouting back, "You've got your own demons to avoid!" Then he was gone, running into the night. But Arthur stood still, his expression wavering between fury and something resembling shame. Back in the hall, the music drifted mournfully in the background. Echoes of a celebration now morphed into a nightmare. As he lurched forward, his phone buzzed in his pocket, a lifeline snaking through panic. But then, just then, uncertainty flashed before his eyes, a picture that haunted. Arthur? Why would Arthur know about Jenna? Was this accident linked to him in ways Elon couldn't yet see? The truth curled in the air, thick and choking. He felt the weight of it all. Past sins, shadows creeping, ready to engulf him. The night felt alive with questions, each a whisper wrapping tighter around his chest, a truth yet to be unveiled. What if his world was unraveling, dragging him and everyone he loved into the dark? As he raced toward the exit, he had to wonder, how far did the ties between them run? And whose fault was it, really? The night held its breath, and the echoes of that question lingered, a storm waiting to break. The night hummed with expectation, a thick tension pulsing beneath the surface. ELON's fists were tight, his eyes locked sharply on Arthur, still cutting into him with that ugly mockery. The guests were a sea of anxious glances, caught in the turbulence between two towering figures. Suddenly, the music ground to a halt, the heavy silence broken only by a distant, insistent crack. Then it happened. A thunderous roar erupted from outside. A blast that rattled the very foundation of the venue. The lights flickered, and then chaos spilled in like a tidal wave. Guests turned, their faces blanched, as screams erupted from the courtyard. A pair of figures burst through the doors, disheveled and wild-eyed. They were breathless, clutching their phones. One of them shouted, "There's been an explosion at Arthur's building!" Gasps swept through the crowd like wildfire. The revelation dropped like a stone in the still water of the room. Gasoline-soaked whispers ignited, questions thrumming loud in the air. What building? What happened? Is anyone hurt? Elon's heart raced, a sick feeling curling in his stomach. He knew. The implications were striking. Arthur's name was suddenly tied to something darker, something far worse. Ties to his supposed investment in tech companies with dubious connections. The hands that grasped at shadows. Just like rumors had whispered, Arthur's face drained of color, his bravado crumbling away to reveal panic. "What do you mean?" he stammered, his voice shaking. "Are you sure? Is it? People are trapped!" The figure gasped, still gasping for breath, eyes wide. "The main floor! It's gone!" Time seemed to freeze as the weight of those words crashed over the party like a tidal wave. Eyes darted from Arthur to Elon, from them to the shifting crowd. The pulse of tension went from electric to frozen fear, hearts hammering in uneven throbs. Would this accusation, this disaster, pull their lives into a vortex they couldn't escape? Then came a low rumble of voices. He knew something was wrong, didn't he? Elon's expression hardened as accusations flew across the room, each word sharp enough to cut. Arthur started sweating, glancing around like a hunted animal. "No, I swear I had nothing to do with any of that!" His words fell flat against the rising tide of suspicion. "We've got to check on everyone! They need help!" someone yelled, cutting through the murmur. Guests began clamoring for smartphones, trying to understand the chaos. The atmosphere thrummed with frantic energy, the earlier elegance morphing into desperation. Elon took a step back, his mind racing, digging through the vault of memories. Arthur had once been a name whispered in circles, but this could shake everything. But what if it was true? What if Arthur had been playing a deeper game, manipulating events from the shadows? A silence lingered, thick and suffocating. In that hush, a realization struck with the force of a hammer against glass. This was not just about two men anymore. Lives were at stake. Their past was tangled in a web of ethics, ambition, but now, this new reality threatened to tear everything apart. Elon locked eyes with Arthur, and the air crackled with desperation and dread. A flash of something deeper flickered between them. Fear, regret, and maybe an understanding of the darkness that had been lurking beneath their facades. And then a new voice sliced through the tension, a stark clarity rising against the noise. "We have to go, now! Time is running out!" As the crowd surged toward the exits, the question hung heavy. What had been unleashed, and how far would it go? The night was just beginning, and the real horror was still waiting in the shadows, ready to unfold. The night felt electric, but then tremors of something deeper churned The guests were still reeling from the tension between Elon and Arthur when a new noise sliced through the air, a shrill scream. It was sharp, a jagged sound that splintered the atmosphere like ice cracking in the spring thaw. A woman, pale and trembling, burst through the gilded doors of the reception hall. Her dress glittered like scattered stars, but her face told a different story, one of fear. Desperation. "You need to see this," she gasped, gripping the doorframe for strength. All heads snapped toward her. Murmurs broke out like wildfire. What could be so urgent? Was there an emergency? The laughter faded. The air chilled. Eyes drifted from the newlyweds' table, the feast of carefully curated delicacies, to this newcomer with the urgent plea. Elon took a step fuerte, bravo y riescato. Arthur se miró, curiosidad fliquerando en sus ojos, pero había algo más allá también, fulgurante de la tensión en el cuerpo. La mujer se continuó, bresprisas bucales. Gaspos arrojaron, como la multitud cambió intensamente. Arthur's sonrisa se desmayó completamente, reemplazada con tratiente estrella. Fulgurante, dice el voz. Tu pasado. The truth, she exclaimed, voice trembling. There are pictures, evidence, and suddenly a phone buzzed, loud and insistent. Another guest, a business tycoon, pulled out his device, face paling as he read the screen. There's a report. It's spreading online. Arthur, it's everywhere. His voice dropped, disbelief laced with fear. What are you saying? Arthur's voice cut through like a knife, but his facade cracked. The laughter was replaced with whispers, eyes darting. The air grew thick, suffocating. Weren't you behind that scandal? Another guest chimed in, from the edge, eyes wide. Didn't you get someone arrested for something dark? Is it true? Is that why you're here? No, Arthur shouted, fury igniting his voice. This is nonsense. The woman interrupted, her resolve solidifying. It's not nonsense. It's real, and it's ugly. You can't hide from it anymore. The room awash with confusion and dread. A sense of impending doom hung heavy among the guests. Elon's gaze flicked from Arthur to the crowd, assessing the change in atmosphere. They were grasping for understanding, eyes shifting like restless shadows. Then, without warning, the lights flickered, dimming to a near darkness. A cloud of silence enveloped the hall. Seconds stretched, a heartbeat, a breath held, and then the lights blazed back to life. She's lying, Arthur yelled, panting, but no one seemed to believe him. Uncertainty twisted their faces, hangovers of doubt overlaid with panic. The crowd's whispers rose to a frantic pitch. Elon stood frozen, heart racing, a lump forming in his throat. Who was this man beside him? What skeletons hid behind that glimmering facade? The spark of betrayal ignited, and their past battles felt small compared to what was unfolding. Then, like a dam breaking, a voice broke through the chaos. A familiar voice, tinged with anguish. Arthur, I had no choice. It was a woman. She stepped into the light, shadows falling away to reveal her face. Elon's breath caught. Emily? His eyes went wide. Everyone turned, and time froze. Emily, the image of elegance in the wedding, a figure from Arthur's past, intertwined with secrets they never wanted to confront. Old wounds flared, truths blurred, and the whole night stood on the brink of collapse. Caught in this unfolding turmoil, The question pulsed in Elon's mind. What had he been a part of? What had Arthur hidden all this time? And now, as Emily stood there, vulnerability etched in her features, the silence vibrated with impending revelations. Tonight was only the beginning, and the darkness was just creeping in. Emily stepped into the spotlight, breathless but fierce. "Arthur, I had no choice," she cried, her voice cracking under the weight of her conviction. The crowd fell silent, all eyes on her, curiosity becoming a tidal wave of expectation. "What do you mean you had no choice?" Elon's voice cut through the tension, potent with urgency. The air around them felt thick, charged like a storm preparing to unleash its fury. "It's not just you," Emily said, her gaze darting around the room, seeing the mix of fearful and skeptical expressions. "It goes so much deeper. I had to protect someone." The collective gasp was overwhelming. Elon's heart raced, pounding against his ribs. Protect who? The question hung heavy, cutting through the chaos. Before she could answer, a shout echoed from outside. "This way! Hurry!" A frantic figure burst through the doors. A young man with disheveled hair and wide eyes, panic radiating off him. "Something's happened! They're after you!" "What?" Arthur jumped forward, confusion morphing to fear, his voice sharp. "Who's after us?" The young man's face paled. "They know about the deal. The one you thought was buried. Someone talked!" But tension in the room shifted again, morphing into a palpable dread. Whispers began, spiraling through the guests like wildfire. "A deal? What deal?" Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. A loud crash came from the back, followed by shouting. A door burst open, revealing a group of men dressed in dark suits, faces grim. They surged into the hall, eyes scanning quickly, as if they were hunting. "Get out now!" one of them barked, voice booming with authority. The chaotic scene morphed into a cacophony of alarm. Guests scrambled, fear gripping their hearts, as chairs toppled and heels clicked against the polished floor in a frantic retreat. But Elon felt rooted, confusion clouding his mind. Arthur, too, stood frozen, grappling with the reality dawning on him. "What's happening?" he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. Emily turned to Arthur, desperation flickering across her face. "You need to tell them. You have to admit it." The weight of her words struck a nerve. Elon's breath caught. "Admit what?" he demanded, voice trembling with urgency. But before Arthur could answer, the young man lunged toward him, eyes ablaze. "You're not who you say you are, Arthur." "None of this was real." The proclamation landed like a bombshell. The room went dead silent. The chaos halted for just a moment. Arthur's face twisted in disbelief. "What are you talking about?" But the young man didn't back down. "You're an imposter. You've been living someone else's life all along." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Whispers exploded, questioning everything they thought they had known. Elon's head spun. The implications weighed heavily in the air, tangible confusion, replacing their earlier thrill. Then, as Arthur's jaw dropped, another crash. The lights flickered again, this time plunging the hall into darkness. Caught in the monstrous shadow, tension coiled tighter. When the lights returned, a figure stood in their place, cloaked in familiarity. "It's true!" The voice echoed, rich with authority. It was Camilla, stepping forward through the confusion. Arthur isn't who you think he is. He's been playing a part, and it's time to reveal why. A ripple of shock swept through the guests. Faces turned pale, fear etching lines deeper. It was too much to take in. What do you mean? Elon pushed through the fog, every nerve on edge. The revelation hung in the air, thick as smoke. The truth felt like a monster in the room, waiting to pounce. Before anyone could speak, the young man shouted again. This isn't just about Arthur. We're all in danger. The urgency escalated, voices rising with hysteria. And then, in a shocking moment, the fire alarm blared, drowning out the confusion with a shrill scream. The crowd surged toward the exits, panic igniting like a powder keg. Elon stood rooted, heart racing, mind spinning. Chaos erupted around him as the truth began to unravel, threads snapping one by one. Who was Arthur really? And why was everything they knew collapsing into darkness? The questions loomed above the chaos, heavy and ominous. Who would survive this night? And what secrets would be dragged into the light? The night felt electric, but then tremors of something deeper churned beneath the surface. Guests were still reeling from the tension between Elon and Arthur, when a new noise sliced through the air, a shrill scream. It was sharp, a jagged sound that splintered the atmosphere like ice cracking in the spring thaw. A woman, pale and trembling, burst through the gilded doors of the reception hall. Her dress glittered like scattered stars, but her face told a different story. One of fear, desperation. "You need to see this," she gasped, gripping the doorframe for strength. All heads snapped toward her. Murmurs broke out like wildfire. What could be so urgent? Was there an emergency? The laughter faded. The air chilled. Eyes drifted from the newlyweds' table, the feast of carefully curated delicacies, to this newcomer with the urgent plea. Elon took a step forward, brow furrowed, muscles taut. Arthur turned, curiosity flickering in his eyes. But there was something else there too, a flicker of recognition. Something unspoken hung between them. The woman continued, breathless. It's about Arthur." Gasps arose as the crowd shifted uneasily. Arthur's smile faded completely, replaced by a tight-lipped frown. "What are you talking about?" he asked, the gravel in his voice thickening with concern. "Your past." "The truth," she exclaimed, voice trembling. "There are pictures, evidence." And suddenly, a phone buzzed, loud and insistent. Another guest, a business tycoon, pulled out his device, face paling as he read the screen. "There's a report. It's spreading online. Arthur, it's everywhere." "What are you saying?" Arthur's voice cut through like a knife, but his facade cracked. The laughter was replaced with whispers, eyes darting. The air grew thick, suffocating. Elon stood frozen, heart racing, a lump forming in his throat. Who was this man beside him? What skeletons hid behind that glimmering facade? The spark of betrayal ignited, and their past battles felt small compared to what was unfolding. Then, like a dam breaking, a voice broke through the chaos, a familiar voice, tinged with anguish. "Arthur, I had no choice." It was a woman. She stepped into the light, shadows falling away to reveal her face. Elon's breath caught. Emily? His eyes went wide. Everyone turned, and time froze. Emily, the image of elegance in the wedding. A figure from Arthur's past, intertwined with secrets they never wanted to confront. Old wounds flared, truths blurred, and the whole night stood on the brink of collapse. Caught in this unfolding turmoil, the question pulsed in Elon's mind. What had he been a part of? What had Arthur hidden all this time? And now, as Emily stood there, vulnerability etched in her features, the silence vibrated with impending revelations. Emily, what are you talking about? Arthur's voice sounded weaker, more desperate. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into a dim chaos. The familiar sound of chatter shifted to a cacophony of uncertainty, hearts pounding in syncopated rhythms. Then, without warning, the front doors burst open. A tall figure, cloaked in shadow, stormed in, their presence sucking the air from the room, eyes blazing with an intensity that pierced through the dimness. "Elon!" the figure shouted, voice like thunder. It was Jenna, standing tall but trembling. "It's your father! He's here!" The crowd gasped collectively, and the air thrummed with shock. Elon felt the blood drain from his face. A sudden rush of questions surged through his mind. His father had been missing for years in the shadows of his world, a ghost haunting his present. But why now? Why here? "Dad?" he whispered, confusion rooting him to the spot. How could this be true? Everyone's lives are intertwined in ways you don't understand. She continued, voice echoing in the stunned silence. "He's behind it all, the reason for everything." A collective gasp filled the hall. No one could process this new layer, this sudden twist. Who was his father really? The rogue he had only heard stories about? Or something far more dangerous? The foundation of Elon's reality began to tremble. "Find him! We need to stop him before it's too late!" Jenna insisted, eyes wide with fear. Tension snapped like a bowstring. Chaos ignited anew as guests looked at each other, uncertainty pooling in the air. What other secrets lay in the shadows? What truth lurked, ready to explode like a volcano? And as the ground shifted beneath them, the question hung heavy. Could they trust each other now? Would the truth set them free, or ensnare them in webs darker than they could imagine? Amid the chaos, as Jenna's revelation echoed in the now small hall, Elon felt an urgency rise to a crescendo in his chest. The crowd was a whirlpool of confusion and fear, but all he could focus on was her fierce gaze and the implication cascading through the air like shards of glass. "Your father is behind this?" he whispered, disbelief coursing through him. Memories flooded his mind, faces he thought were long gone, fragments of his past twisting into something grotesque and real. "Yes," Jenna urged, breath hitching. "He's here. We have to find him before it's too late." Arthur, visibly shaken, turned to Emily, his voice barely a murmur. "Did you know he was involved?" Emily's shame-filled expression was enough of an answer. The truth hung between them. The shadows of the past were surging, ready to swallow them whole. Elon shook his head, trying to grasp the strings of this unraveling nightmare. "Let's go," he said, a fierce determination igniting in his heart. We can't be here. With Jenna leading the way, they pushed through the crowd, hearts racing together, shoulders brushing against the chaos. It felt like running from shadows, the tendrils of past decisions lashing out, hungry for retribution. As they emerged into the chaotic courtyard outside, lights twinkled precariously amidst the panic. Guests looked frantic, like frightened deer caught in headlights, confused murmurs bouncing off the walls. And then he saw them, men in dark suits moving with purpose, scanning faces, searching. Stay close, Jenna urged, gripping Elon's arm. We have to move. They can't find out we're on to them. But just as they began to slip into the shadows of the evening, a booming voice cut through the confusion. Elon! It was Arthur, eyes wide, desperation written on his face. Don't! Elon shouted over the tumult. But Arthur rushed forward, panic propelling him. Listen, you don't understand. This is bigger than us. Bigger than us? Elon echoed, words laced with disbelief. You've put us in danger, you and your lies. The rest of the world faded as adrenaline spiked, a mutual recognition flashing between them. Arthur was many things, but a coward wasn't one of them. Your father, he used me. Arthur's voice trembled. He didn't just disappear. He was hiding something. Elon grasped his words, visions of twisted family ties creeping into his mind. What do you mean? Before Arthur could reply, a shrill voice echoed behind them. This way! We need to move! It was Emily, frantically waving them over, her face wrought with urgency. The growing tension turned heavy like a thunderstorm. Too much to bear. In a fleeting moment, Elon made a decision. Follow her! He shouted, rushing towards Emily. They dashed into the night, heartbeats drumming in sync with the chaos at their backs. The night air was thick, almost suffocating. Every breath tasted like smoke, urgency weighing heavily in the air. But they didn't stop. They couldn't stop. They hurtled down streets, the sounds of the world fading behind them. Each step felt like a leap into the great unknown, the truth looming just out of reach. Finally, they reached a secluded alley, intermingled shadows guarding them from the chaos. Silence descended, heavy and thick. What now? Elon panted, trying to process the crescendo of emotions whirling around him. Now we find the truth, Jenna said quietly, eyes fierce. We confront him, together. But as they huddled in the dim light, a question sparkled in the air, throbbing like a heartbeat. Would they survive the battle against the darkness that had enveloped them? Would unearthing the truth be their salvation or their doom? In that pregnant moment of silence, hope flickered like a candle in the night. Just as it felt like the shadow would envelop them all, it became clear. They would face whatever came next together. And as the darkness surged around the edges, a faint glimmer of a new beginning danced on the horizon. Don't miss the chance to follow this gripping tale further. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let us know you want more. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And hey, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this. You won't want to wait for what's coming next.